Leo is in his late 20s. He works an office job, does his tasks well, and comes home to a quiet apartment. To an outsider, his life seems simple, maybe even lonely. But inside Leo's mind, there is a constant, bustling, and often exhausting world. The other kids didn't laugh cruelly, but they didn't help him up either. They just kept playing, as if he had never been there. For them, it was a forgotten moment. For Leo, it was a lesson. My presence doesn't really matter. I am invisible. This is the first brick in the fortress. The core belief of being different or broken. Leo started to believe there was something fundamentally wrong with him. Maybe he was too quiet, his jokes weren't funny, or his interests were weird. He saw other kids easily forming groups and sharing secrets, and he couldn't crack the code. His mind began to whisper, "You don't belong." So, he started to adapt. He built walls, not to be rude, but to protect himself. Imagine every social interaction is like walking through a minefield. That's Leo's daily life. When he goes to the office kitchen to make coffee and a colleague is there, his brain goes into overdrive. Do I say, "Good morning"? What if I said it too quietly yesterday and they think I'm rude? They look busy. I don't want to bother them. What if I run out of things to say and there's an awkward silence? That would be terrible. My hand is shaking a little. Can they see it? This isn't just shyness. This is social anxiety. The fear of being judged, of saying the wrong thing, of the painful sting of rejection, is so powerful that it's easier to just say nothing. To avoid the kitchen until it's empty. To eat lunch at his desk. The short-term relief of avoiding anxiety is much stronger than the potential long-term reward of a conversation. Because Leo couldn't rely on others, he learned to rely only on himself. This is hyper-independence, a trait born from the belief that needing help is a weakness or an invitation for disappointment. When his sink gets clogged, he spends 3 hours watching YouTube tutorials and fixes it himself, feeling a surge of pride mixed with bitterness. He doesn't think, "I wish I had a friend to help." He thinks, "See, I don't need anyone." This shield makes him feel strong and safe, but it also keeps people at a distance. People offer help, and he politely declines, not out of ingratitude, but from a deep-seated habit of self-preservation. Leo's mind isn't just passive, it's an active storyteller, creating narratives to make his reality make sense. This is the voice in Leo's head, and it is brutal. It comments on everything he does. After a brief chat with a cashier, "You sounded so robotic." She probably thought you were weird. When he sees a group of coworkers laughing, they're probably laughing about how quiet you are in meetings. When he tries to watch a new TV show everyone is talking about, what's the point? You have no one to discuss it with anyway. This critic reinforces the core belief that he is flawed. Leo's brain is like a detective only looking for evidence that proves his theory. I am unlikable. If someone doesn't reply to his text immediately, it's proof they are ignoring him. If someone does smile at him, his brain dismisses it. They're just being polite. He forgets the 9 times people were neutral or kind and obsesses over the one time someone seemed slightly dismissive. This filter distorts his view of the world, making it seem much more hostile and rejecting than it actually is. Friendship is a skill, like playing the guitar. If you never practice, you never get better. Leo hasn't practiced in years. He doesn't know how to do the casual dance of conversation, the back and forth, the sharing of small vulnerabilities, the making of future plans. The idea of hanging out feels vague and terrifying. What do people even do? His hobbies are mostly solitary: reading, video games, walking. He misreads social cues. He might talk too long about a topic he loves, not noticing the other person's glazed eyes, because he's so unused to having a captive audience. This isn't because he's selfish, it's because he's socially out of shape. Let's follow Leo through a single day to see how this psychology plays out. Morning. The alarm rings. The first feeling is a hollow emptiness. No good morning texts. His commute is a silent podcast in his ears, a barrier against the world. Work. In a meeting, his boss praises his project. For a moment, he feels a spark of joy. He instinctively turns to his side, a tiny muscle memory of wanting to share that joy with a friend. But there's no one there. The spark fizzles out. The accomplishment feels hollow. Lunch. He eats at his desk, scrolling through social media. He sees photos of his old schoolmates at a wedding. The narrative kicks in, look at them. They have real lives. They've moved on. You're stuck. He feels a deep, aching FOMO, fear of missing out, but it's so painful that he quickly closes the app and numbs the feeling with work. Evening. This is the hardest part. The silence in his apartment is loud. He tries to read, but he can't focus. He puts on a movie for background noise. He has a sudden, intense desire to talk about the movie's plot twist, to debate a character's decision. The longing is a physical ache in his chest. This is loneliness, the conscious, painful awareness of the connection he lacks. But then, the protector parts of his brain jump in. Who would you call? You just bother them. It's safer here. You're fine on your own. And so, the desire passes, buried under a familiar blanket of resignation. Is there a way out? The glimmer of hope. Leo's story isn't doomed. The human spirit craves connection, and that spark never fully goes out. Change often starts with a tiny, almost invisible crack in the fortress wall. For Leo, it was the library. He started going every Saturday. It was a safe, quiet place where he didn't have to talk. He noticed the same woman, about his age, often in the same science fiction section. For weeks, they just exchanged faint, polite smiles. One Saturday, she was holding a book he loved. His heart hammered against his ribs. The anxiety screamed, "Don't. It's a trap." Awkwardness ahead. But a quieter, braver voice whispered, "It's just a book." He took a breath, pointed, and stammered, That's a really good one." The ending is wild. She looked up, slightly surprised, then smiled. "Oh yeah? I'm only a chapter in." Now I'm excited. The conversation lasted 60 seconds. They didn't exchange names. But for Leo, it was an earthquake. He didn't say anything stupid. The world didn't end. She even smiled. That small, positive experience became a new piece of evidence. A tiny crack of light. The psychology of a person with no friends is not a simple story of sadness. It is a complex, layered, and deeply human story of self-protection. It's a fortress built brick by brick from past hurts, guarded by anxiety and policed by a critical inner voice. The person inside isn't always sad. They are often numb, or proud of their independence, or simply exhausted from the constant mental work of navigating a world that feels alien and threatening. But the fortress, no matter how strong, was built to protect a person who still, deep down, desires to be seen, to be known, and to be told, "You matter." And sometimes, all it takes is one small, brave hand offering a single flower through the bars to remind them that the gate, though heavy, can still be opened from the inside. The exchange in the library didn't magically fix Leo's life. There was no sudden montage of parties and group photos. Healing, for Leo, was not an explosion, but a slow, deliberate unfurling. Like a plant finally turning towards a sliver of sun, he started using that small, positive experience as a shield against his inner critic. When the voice hissed, "You'll just make a fool of yourself," Leo could now counter, "But what about the library?" That was okay. It was a fragile defense. He began with tiny, manageable risks. He forced himself to say "good morning" to the office receptionist every day, until it became a comfortable ritual. He joined a small, online book club centered on sci-fi, until it became a comfortable ritual. He joined a small, online book club centered on sci-fi, where he could practice expressing his thoughts from the safety of his keyboard. The first time he posted a comment, his hands were shaking. The first time someone replied, "Great point, Leo," it felt like a bolt of lightning, a good one. Weeks later, he saw the woman from the library again. This time, he was ready. His heart still raced, but the brave whisper was a little louder. "I saw you liked that last book," he said. "If you're looking for something similar, the author's new one is right over here." Her name was Clara. Their conversation lasted 5 minutes. It was about books, then about a movie adaptation, then about their favorite quiet spots in the city. It was the easiest 5 minutes Leo had experienced in years. He didn't build a fortress around Clara. The old instincts were there, the urge to retreat, to preemptively reject before he could be rejected. But he was learning. When she suggested getting coffee sometime to talk about a new novel, he said yes, even though his anxiety screamed that it was a terrible idea. He went, and he spent the first 10 minutes in a cold sweat, but he stayed. Coffee became a monthly, then a bi-weekly, habit. It was never about a whirlwind romance, it was about a slow, steady construction. They were building a bridge, plank by plank, between their two solitary islands. Through Clara, who was shy but wickedly funny once she felt safe, Leo met a few of her friends. They were a small, quiet group, a photographer who loved hiking, a software developer who baked obsessively. They didn't expect Leo to be the life of the party. They accepted his quietness, and were pleasantly surprised when, on occasion, he'd offer a dry, insightful observation that made them all laugh. The FOMO he felt from social media began to be replaced by JOMO, the joy of missing out. He discovered he preferred a quiet Tuesday night playing board games with 3 people to a loud, crowded bar. He had found his people, and the scale of his social world fit him perfectly. One Saturday, Leo was in his apartment, but the silence was different. It was no longer a loud, hollow presence, but a peaceful, comfortable one. He was cooking a new recipe, one he was planning to share with the group that evening. His phone buzzed. It was a text from the group chat, a silly meme about a book, followed by a question about what time everyone was coming over. As he typed his reply, he looked around. Fortress was still there, but the gates were open. Walls, though once built for protection, now served as a strong foundation. He hadn't become a different person, he had integrated the parts of himself. Hyper-independence that had once isolated him now made him a capable, reliable friend who could fix a sink or plan a trip. The observational skills honed by years of silence made him a thoughtful listener. He was still Leo. He still needed his solitude to recharge. Still felt pangs of anxiety sometimes. He was no longer defined by his lack of friends. He was now defined by the quiet, steady, and deeply cherished connections he had slowly, bravely, chosen to let in. His chest was gone, replaced by a warm, steady glow, the quiet, unshakable knowledge that he was seen, he was known, and he belonged.